Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're diving into one of the most fundamental concepts in programming, something you'll use in almost every single line of code you write: variables. If you're just starting your C++ journey, understanding variables is your first big step towards building amazing programs. Think of them as the building blocks for storing information. So let's unlock the mystery of variables in C++. So, what exactly is a variable? Imagine your computer's memory as a massive set of mailboxes. Each mailbox can hold something: a letter, a package, a picture. Now, if you want to put something specific in a mailbox, you need to know which mailbox it is, right? And that's exactly what a variable is in programming. It's like a name stores location in your computer's memory that can hold a piece of data. When you create a variable, you're essentially reserving a mailbox and giving it a unique name so you can easily access and manipulate the data inside. When using variables, the data you store inside them can change or vary throughout your program's execution. That's why they're so powerful. Why are variables important? Well, imagine trying to write a program that calculates the area of a rectangle without being able to store the length and width, or a game where you can't keep track of the player's score or health. Variables allow us to store data like numbers, text, true, false values, anything your program needs to remember, and manipulate data. This means we can perform calculations, combine text, and change states. Also, make programs dynamic. Using variables, programs can react to user input, update values, and provide different outputs based on changing information. Variables also allow us to write reusable code. Instead of hard coding values, you can use variables, making your code more flexible and easier to maintain. Alright, enough theory. Let's jump into the code and see how we actually create variables in C++. The first step is called declaration. When you declare a variable, you're telling the compiler, the program that translates source code written in a high level programming language like C++ into machine language, two things. One is what type of data it will hold, its data type, and two is what you want to call it, its name. So let's declare a few variables. We'll do int age, double price, and car or char initial. This is a basic example. Notice the int, double, and char keywords. These are what we call data types, and they specify what kind of information our variable can store. We'll dive deeper into data types in a moment. After the data type, we give our variable a name like age, price, or initial. And remember, every statement in C++ ends with a semicolon. Declaring a variable reserves space, but it doesn't put anything into that space. It's like having an empty mailbox. To put a value in, we perform initialization. Initialization means giving a variable its first value. You can do this right when you declare it, which is often a good practice, or later in your code. So I'm going to initialize the variables here by giving them values. Okay, so here we're initializing age directly to 30. Here we're initializing price to 1999, and here initial to J. Notice for characters we use single quotes. For a sequence of consecutive characters, otherwise known as a string, we'll use double quotes. You can also declare a variable and then assign a value to it later using the assignment operator, which is a single equal sign. We declare score, and then on the next line we assign 1000 to it. And finally, to see the values, we're using cout, which stands for character output, to print them to the console. Endl moves the cursor to the next line. And here's the output of that code. Now let's talk about those important data types in C++. The type you choose determines what kind of data your variable can hold and how much memory it will occupy. First up is int. This stands for integer. Integers are whole numbers, positive, negative, or zero without any decimal points. I'm going to type out the code for this next part. Okay, so int is perfect for things like counts, ages, years, or anything that should be a whole number. If you try to store a decimal value in an int, the decimal part will simply be chopped off or truncated, losing precision. Here's the output of that code. Next, for numbers with decimal points, we have float and double. These are called floating point numbers. Float stands for single precision floating point, and double stands for double precision floating point. The main difference is precision. Double variables can store much larger and more precise decimal numbers than float variables. In most modern C++ programming, double is preferred due to its higher precision, unless memory is a very critical concern. I'm just going to type out the code for this part real quick. Alright, notice the F after 23.5 for the float variable. That's this one up here. This is important. Without the F, C++ would treat 23.5 as a double and then try to fit it into a float, which can sometimes lead to warnings or unexpected behavior. For double, you don't need a suffix. You can see how double holds a much more precise value of pi when I run the code. When dealing with calculations, especially financial or scientific ones, double is usually the way to go. So, sorry, 1 second, guys. Yeah, I'm not sure what was going on there. Some random error. Anyway, my point was, um, with the doubles and the floats. One is more precise and the other is less precise. So double is the one that's more precise, and float is less precise. And you could actually see it here. This one is float, and you could see it only shows you up to a certain amount of characters or numbers, and you could actually see more numbers or decimal places here with the double. I'm actually not going to edit this out. I'm just going to leave it in. Alright, where was I? Yeah, so next we have char, which stands for character. A char variable is used to store a single character, like a letter, a number, or a symbol. Characters are enclosed in single quotes. So let me type some code out for this real quick. Okay, so here the hash symbol, and the 7 are treated as characters because we are using single quotes. And here's the output of that code. Okay, next up is bool, short for boolean. This data type is super simple but incredibly powerful. A bool variable can hold one of two values, true or false. Booleans are fundamental for decision making in your programs. Think conditions like is the user logged in, is the game over, or is the number positive. Boolean values print true as 1 and false is 0 by default. So when you run the code, you'll actually see that for the variable logged in since we set, or is logged in since we set its values to true, when we print it out or do the character output for it, it's actually, instead of giving us true, it's going to give us 1. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, this code should be running without any errors. There it goes. I think VS Code is just giving me some trouble because none of the code had any errors in it before either. Anyway, like I was saying, uh, since the value of is logged in was true, it'll give us a 1, and then when it's false, like for game over, it gives us a 0. Alright, finally we have the string data type. While not a primitive data type like int or char, string is an extremely common and useful data type from the C++ standard library for storing sequences of characters, or in other words, text. To use string, you need to include the string header, which I have right here. Strings are enclosed in double quotes, so let me type out some code to explain this, how it works. Okay, so here we declare a string called name and initialize it with Alice. Notice the double quotes being used for the string. We can also concatenate or join strings together using the plus operator or the addition operator as shown with message here. And here's the output of that code. Yeah, here's the output. Okay, before we wrap up, a quick but important note on variable naming. Choosing good descriptive names for your variables makes your code much easier to read, understand, and maintain, not just for others, but for your future self too. Here are some best practices. One is be descriptive. Age, for example, age is better than A. And also, number of students would be better than N. Number two is start with a letter or underscore. You cannot start with a number. Number three is no spaces. Use camel case like it's written like this. The first word would be all lowercase, and the first letter of the second of each word that comes after is capital, or you can use snake case. It's written like this. You just put underscores in between each word. Camel case is very common in C++. And number four is avoid C++ keywords. Don't use words like int, double, if, for, or return as variable names. And five is be consistent. Stick to one naming convention throughout your project. Choosing meaningful names improves readability. It's a small habit that makes a huge difference. Alright, let's do a super quick recap of what we covered today about variables in C++. Variables are named stores locations in memory. You declare them by specifying their data type and name. You initialize them by giving them their first value. Common data types include int, which are whole numbers, float and double, which are decimal numbers. Double has higher precision. Char, which is for single characters, and you use single quotes for it. There's bool, which is for true false values. It prints out as 1 and 0. And there's also string, which is for text, and you use double quotes for it, and it requires string in the header. Also, use descriptive names for your variables. Understanding variables is absolutely crucial for writing any meaningful program. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel for more C++ tutorials, and leave a comment below if you have any questions or suggestions for future topics. I'll see you in the next video.